Hello and welcome to DCG's live stream. We are here with the development update with the core, with the mobile, and with the core teams. And we would like to give you an update of what happened in the past 2 weeks. We are planning this session for 60 minutes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post them below in the live chat. If you can use a Q or a question prefix before the message, we'll know it is intended to the Q&A part at the end. So without further ado, let's start with the overview and the platform team. Sam, would you kick us off?
Yeah, let's go. So we had two big focuses last 2 weeks. It was tokens and state sync. So on the token side, it was really me and Ivan working on things, me working on new features and Ivan working on integrating them into the SDK. Paul was working on the Dash Evo tool, basically to show tokens. And Odysseus and Lukash were working on state sync. And we had Evgeny working on a new feature in GroveDB, and I worked on a few small things there, and Ivan did a fix. He found a long-term issue. But before we all start this, we had 1.8 release with no issues.
Yeah.
Excellent. And basically that concludes version 1. Version 1 of Evolution is now done, pretty much. It's working as intended, withdrawals work as intended, everything works as intended, and we're moving on to V2. Well, and the next slide too. Let's go.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on.
Hi. So basically, that's my slide. We're finalizing the SDK proof of concept for WASM. So the JavaScript bindings connection between JavaScript and Rust SDK. And not much done since last review. We just merged one of the PRs and the other is in review. It's not a functional solution. It's just some some steps done in this direction. We're not actively working on this at this point, or because this sprint I was focused on working on the state sync, which is on the next slide. Yeah, in terms of state sync, we are quite good. Today we started first mainnet tests. So we did some local testing on the local devnet that was always empty and where connectivity is fast. It's done. Right now we're testing on the mainnet. We set up a few full nodes and we copy data or state sync data between them. It's at this point very slow because we didn't focus on performance yet, but it's after some fixes, it looks like it's synchronizing. And this testing will take place in the next sprint. And also we need to optimize performance to get the state sync much faster than it's now because it's very slow at this point. But again, we didn't put too much effort into that. And also we did some PRs to various components. One is TenderDash and second is RS TenderDash ABCI, which is just a library for Rust to use TenderDash in Rust. And like we are going forward, I will not get into details here, but I think we are on a good path to get it done and to boost state synchronization of new nodes and make it faster. And also on TenderDash, I did some maintenance in terms of updating few dependencies that were released. And it's all waiting for new release of TenderDash, which will be I think once we stabilize state sync. So not yet, basically. Nothing to release that would give any value to user at this point. And that's it on my side. Odi?
Yeah, hello. Thanks, Lukasz. So as Lukasz said, we are in the process of making sure that GroveDB state sync is stable so far. And in the meanwhile, I've been working on several optimization that can be done. The most trivial one is packing the number of chunks and chunk IDs in order to in order to minimize and divide by 10, for example, the number of calls that Tenderdash needs to do back and forth from the source node to the target node. 10 is just a number in my head. Maybe we'll try to test if like increasing this number could allow us to achieve a higher performance. We'll see. So this value needs to be tested and think about it. Another small but still planned optimization that needs to be done. Most of the cases when we are fetching chunks, so chunk is a smaller part of the subtrees of GroveDB. This in the process of GroveDB, we are fetching like smaller parts and then applying to the target node and then back and forth. So in most of the cases, many chunks belong to the same subtree. So I think there's also an opportunity here to do a smarter packing than the first one. So when they belong, to the same subtree. So this is currently in design. And also there is another important thing that we need to investigate and think about it. So currently, the version as it is now, it starts the process of state sync, and as soon as it is completed, we commit the transaction of the state sync. So this can be problematic, especially if in mainnet the state is really big. So I'm in the process of checking whether we can commit transaction every n blocks once we complete some blocks for not blocks, sorry, subtrees. So this needs to be evaluated and implemented. That's all for me. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to add that when you're saying transactions, you're meaning database transactions.
Yes, I'm sorry if I confused people with blockchain transaction. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good.
Paul?
Thank you. Hello, guys. Yeah, so I've been working on adding token screens and functionality to Dash Evo tool. There's a bunch of new state transitions to handle, and we kind of got it all working today, like semi-working. So I'll do a quick demo to show what that's looking like. I also
One
added.
thing though, right here you said V9 release next week probably. Tokens are not coming next week, guys. So let's just I don't want people to be We'll release 0.9 without the tokens, and then activate the tokens once it's released to the network.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
When are tokens coming? Do you have an idea?
Yeah. I'll talk about that in
Okay.
later.
Besides tokens, I added the ability to register contracts, and that's also how you'll be able to add tokens. Yeah, so I'll show that quickly too, I guess, and also added the ability to connect to local networks and DevNets so we can test tokens. So I'll share my screen now. -evo tool. So here's the tokens screen, like you're viewing balances. So you have token names. For example, I gave this one the name Flurgon. Well, Sam did. And this one doesn't have a name, so we just have the identifier, but I think we're going to require them to have names soon. So you'll just have token names here, owner identities. These are their balances. You can move them up and down like the identity screen. And here you can transfer tokens to somebody else. And this button, so if your identity has permissions to do these, whatever, these actions, like minting, burning, whatever, you can do that all here. And I'll show you one. I know that minting and burning work well, so I can show you that. The transferring, it was working well before, but now it seems to have stopped working. Here, we're going to let people search tokens by keywords. So we're going to allow you to have keywords associated with your token. Maybe I don't know, maybe you want to have meme keyword attached to your token, and you can search for that here. And yeah, this doesn't do anything yet though. Just have these. Let's see. So, okay. This is the owner of Flurgon. So you can go here and mint. And let's mint 2,000. Oh wait, we have to copy this ID. Yeah, so we should see 200,000 after minting. 2,000. Mint, confirm, go back, refresh. And this is fetched from platform every time you press refresh. So that you know that it really worked. So yeah, that's that. And then also you can register contracts on the contract screen now up here. You can just paste in a JSON schema here and hit register, and yeah, it'll be added to platform and -evo tool. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add that was great. I wanted to add that I saw transfers working earlier today, and then 20 minutes before the review today, they stopped working. So there must be an issue there that we have to debug. But yeah, it was working pretty nicely earlier today. Also, yeah, don't forget. I don't know if you said it right. We're gonna start the redesign work soon. Basically, right after tokens screens are done. So we might even have the new redesign by the time tokens come out.
Yeah, I think most of what I need to do for tokens is kind of done. So I'll probably work on both at the same time.
Yeah. It's really looking good. Evgeny?
That's me. Hello. So besides things mentioned previously, small fixes, two things to add. The first is element public API cleanup, which is in review, because maybe that might require more investigation, but so far it seems we're exposing too much in GroveDB API, but cannot be used properly by itself, and also we don't use it either internally. So maybe we could eliminate some dead code. And the rest is bidirectional references, and it really occupies the most of the work done. First, it took some effort to resume this work after holidays and such, because there are plenty of features implemented in the meantime. And yeah, so with that being done, it needs to be updated according to versioning system we have in GroveDB, and that's all because GroveDB must be able to replay blocks and it should behave just as it used to behave at the time of that block was made. And bidirectional references are kind of different beast, and that changes how costs work because of additional checks, and that's why they shall go to a newer version of API. So that's why that's where versioning comes from. And with that in mind, insertions are done. I consider them done. So they support all the things we have before and bidirectional references as well as branching depending on the version to match the previous costs and the new costs that are different because of this feature. And what's in progress is deletion. Should be done kind of the same way regarding versioning. And what's on our to-do list is batch application. That could be the hardest part, I'm afraid, but so far so good. We are moving there. And estimated costs are also on to-do list. So we have some considerations, like how to estimate it. That's why we limited some numbers of how many references that could be there, just to be able to estimate it in future. But the thing is not thought through yet, so it's on to-do list. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much the state of things right now. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, on to tokens. So, a lot of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks. We might have had a little bit of feature creep, but it really was part of what I felt were community wishes. In fact, a poll was made inside the M&O channel of talking about like if we want a marketplace for tokens. That's not been worked on yet, but that has passed. So we're gonna build out a marketplace. But before that, there were a lot of people asking for distribution features that I originally had not planned in the first version, but have been working on for the last 2 weeks. And I'll kind of explain those. So basically, the distributions are two type, and you can have both at the same time. Basically, one is pre-programmed distribution, basically that you say that like after a year, these people get this many tokens, and that can actually never be changed. So once it's set in the at the start of the token contract, it's done, right? It will be distributed, and that's that. Perpetual is kind of like the distribution we have in Dash Core. So we have like a certain amount distributed every block, and over every year there's like a 7% reduction called the dash halving, even though it's not half. But that can be changed if the contract allows you to change it. So most people are probably going to write that it can never be changed, but some contracts might say, okay, if these 6 people agree that they're the owners of the contract, they can change the perpetual distribution. and stuff like that. What else do we have here? So the way the distributions work is that the people that receive the distribution basically just have it waiting for them, and then they just have to say release. Release the tokens that are allocated to me. So we had to create a new state transition called release. Oh, another type of distribution that's in the perpetual is you can say like every epoch, for example, tokens get distributed to all the Evo node holders. That is a current distribution that we have. We can also, and based off on how many blocks you propose, we're also going to probably include one that says it will be distributed to all master nodes. So different types of airdrops in the distributions. What else? So yeah, we now have a query. So you can say this token, what pre-programmed distributions do we have? And yeah, you can see like after 3 years that this person will get 1 million of the token. So you can just query that information and just see it. Yvonne has been working very hard on getting all the token work and group queries working in the Rust SDK. He has a PR for that, so it basically works at this point. We've been testing it and we're about to merge it. He also found an issue in token state transition handling that he's working on, a pretty nasty issue. It's taking him a little bit of time, but I'm sure he'll be done either today or tomorrow with that. Yeah, we also worked on token configuration update mechanisms. So basically, the token configuration has maybe 40 different things that can be modified in your token, like various fields, and they're now you can now update them. You can update any of those 40 fields if the token contract allows you to update them. So there's a lot of parameters that you can set. You can set that like, for example, you could say that minting is not allowed on the contract, but can be changed later by this group of users and require 4 out of 5 of these users to want this change for it to actually happen. It's very powerful, actually. You can do tons of different things. And you can change things like the admin group of like burning. So who can burn the token and various different configurations. There's also stuff like name, right? Different names that the token might have. At the beginning of your token, you might create it in 5 different languages, but then your token's a massive success and you want to add maybe some new languages. You want to say like in Spanish, my token that was called Flurgon is now, I don't know what Flurgon would be in Spanish. Flugana, I don't know. But adding new languages is like something that you could do through the configuration update mechanism. Okay. So what's left in tokens? So we need to finish the distributions and test them. We're almost done, but probably a few more days there. A feature that's been talked about a lot, but still hasn't been written just because been busy on other things, is the fact that you can use your tokens to purchase documents in your sorry, some people are talking to me. To purchase documents in your contract. So for example, let's imagine that you are a company that sells tickets to concerts, right? So you can put the token out there, and each one of your tokens will cost like $30. And then you can buy the token. So you're the seller of this token, and other people buy the token. Once they have the token, they can register their entrance to the concert automatically, right? Not automatically, but they put in their first name, last name, and then it goes into the system and creates a QR code of their basically their NFT to enter the concert, and they burn they spend their token by burning it by creating the document. And then they just come to the concert, and then they just scan with their phone or something their entrance ticket. So this is kind of like a cool system and how to use these tokens. We're also going to build out the fact that the people that buy the tokens from the allowed seller don't actually have to pay the gas fees. Like the seller basically says, hey, if somebody buys from me, it's free for them. Or if somebody creates these documents with my token and they use my token, I handle the gas fees. And like this, people without any gas could potentially use the system, right? But people without any credits could use the system. Now, yes, they would need to have, something to buy it, but maybe later we'll have stable coins, and in their wallets they'll only have a stable coin, but they could still use the system that way. Also, from a mental perspective, people do not like paying for fees on top of their purchase. They always assume that the seller, the seller should pay for any fees. So it's kind of a system that's more probably would resonate better with buyers. And the last one is a marketplace. Yeah, so a marketplace for tokens. I have a document starting on how to build out this marketplace. Right now, I'm leaning to not do liquidity providers and basically just do an order book. And why can we do an order book where most other coins have not been able to do an order book? Well, because using some trees, we can do some really cool stuff. Like we can do like layered sum trees. So you can query very quickly like the order book, and you can get it at different levels of granularity. And then when you buy and sell tokens, you can quickly get your trade working. So there's actually a lot of cool stuff that I envision for marketplace, and once we match that with the JavaScript SDK, which will come after this token work is done, I believe we can get like a nice online marketplace where people can easily log in and do their orders. Okay, cool. Let's go to the core team.
Alrighty, thanks, Sam. So the big thing going on right now is obviously version 22.1. In the last time frame, in the last 2 weeks, I guess, we released RC1, tested that, deployed that to testnet. Everything seems to be going well. So now we are ready for 22.1 final. This I mean, I feel like I've mentioned it every time I've talked about 22.1, but the biggest interesting thing here is the version 2 P2P protocol is enabled by default. So encrypted P2P messages are now the default on the network. This is really good for passive surveillance, resistance, and that kind of stuff. So really excited about these changes in 22.1. We are basically in the final stages now of tagging it. So today, probably, almost certainly today, it should be tagged. Release notes are done. Everything like that is done. So today it should get tagged, and then tomorrow, late today, tomorrow we'll be actually building the release and then publishing it. Maybe tomorrow or Thursday. It just depends how quickly all of us are able to build it. As always, anyone that wants to help build and make sure that we are actually building from the source that we publish is always welcome to join in. You can use GUIX to deterministically validate the binaries that we produce, and you can attest to your own hashes and prove that what we are providing everyone is the proper binary. So outside of that, develop has now been bumped to version 23. So we are very actively in version 23 development now. This does generally mean that progress will probably appear to slow down as we have multiple bigger tasks that are being worked on in parallel. So, during a release cycle, generally as we're releasing, there are a lot of small PRs that are really easy, really quick, and then as we are working on big feature development, those take time and they're bigger PRs, and you'll get fewer PRs per review, but they are much more interesting. So one of the big things is bumping up to C++20. This isn't really super interesting from a user perspective, but from a build system and a developer experience perspective, it is really valuable. So we're excited about being able to make that change now. I think Gitty Whiskers has had this change ready to be merged in for a couple of months now, but it requires an increase in the minimum compiler version, and we generally don't want to do that in a minor version. So we were waiting for when we branched off 22.1 and bumped develop to 23. So now we're able to merge that in. Proof of service banning via platform. So this dip is still generally in review. A little bit of implementation work has been started on it, but not a ton. Gitty Whiskers is doing good work on the extensible addresses in the deterministic master of this. So again, you could put IPv6, potentially domains, onion addresses, that kind of stuff in the DML. This is driven primarily, well, I've been wanting to do it for a while, but a big driving factor as well is the difficulty around getting IPv4 certificates for Evo nodes. So hopefully we will be able to provide domain support in the deterministic master node list as well, and that should make life a lot easier for getting certificates. So we're excited about that. That should be coming in version 23. Constantine's also been working on some improved descriptor wallet support. Descriptor wallets are really just kind of a way that we internally it's kind of just the format of the wallet. Not super duper interesting from a user perspective at all, but valuable refactorings and improvements. And Constantine also had some fun little wallet performance improvements that he found when doing some benchmarking. So we're getting those merged in as well. And finally, single member reg test forum. There are a couple of different alternative approaches. So we've been working with the platform team to figure out what is the best approach there and what fits into their processes best. So I think we have 2 PRs open right now that are kind of competing, and we're going to see what they end up liking best. And once we get more information from them about if this kind of satisfies their needs for a nice lightweight local development environment, we'll be able to get that merged in. So yeah, good progress. Quick recap is 22.1 should be released soon, and we're now merging in for v23 into develop. So yeah, we can move on to the next slide here. This is just going to be the backport status. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide, and you can see the list of PRs merged in recently. So yeah, I think we are good to move on to mobile.
Right, sounds good. All right, so on Android, so we just are in the process of rolling out 11.1, which has a bunch of fixes for some ANR's application not responding issues, as well as some crash fixes, some refactoring and performance improvements on the transaction list on the home screen. It also, from a feature perspective, it reveals the top-up function. So previously, when we first released, when you created a username, it also topped you up with X amount of credits, depending on whether you had a contested username or non-contested username. The amount is a little different. Very heavy usage Dash Pay, and in some voting scenarios, you need to actually top up and add more credits. So this allows you to do that essentially in the UI. What else? Transaction metadata is something that we're still working on. So this is something that we've been doing for a while and saving that information to the device locally. A little while back, there was a system contract released where we're going to be able to save that data on chain. So that makes it easier to retain your data if you're moving from device to device, or if you reset your wallet or something. There's a Android photo picker permissions issue that we face with the Google Store that's currently in review. That affects the ability to store your profile picture on Drive, Google Drive. That should hopefully be resolved in our next version. We started into the invitation changes needed for contested and non-contested usernames. The first step is the creation of the invitation, and then the next step that we'll be working on is the receiving and accepting of the invitations. We are also implementing a 24-word passphrases that just got started. There's some compatibility testing that we have to kind of look at as well. And there was a couple small bugs relating to auto logout and CoinJoin startup failures. Joel's been doing a good job establishing some partnerships with some other potential partners for, I'm calling it Dashbin. That's kind of the more generic word, but we haven't had any updates from CTX, so we don't know if we're going to be able to use the CTX feature or not. But the Dashbin kind of branding and name can remain. It's just, we might have some different providers that we work with. Ideally, we can have CTX and other providers, but again, we're just in a waiting pattern on CTX on that. We can't move forward without them. That's pretty much it on Android. For iOS, I'll start on the CoinJoin front. We did just, is this the right? Oh, I must have updated something somewhere else. Anyways, we had the start of the rollout for version 8.3, which has the CoinJoin feature on Dash Wallet for iOS. That started on the weekend. We're about 10% in right now on that rollout. Should be fully rolled out by the end of the week, assuming we don't have any issues that we have to deal with. It's been in public beta for at least a few weeks now, and we haven't had any issues. So I'm optimistic that rollout should be pretty good. That being said, I mean, we're still finding things on even Android that we have to fix. So, I'm sure there will be other iterations to address, CoinJoin performance and whatnot on iOS. As far as Dash Pay is concerned, I mean, there's been a lot of discussions on Discord and various channels, but maybe just to bring it to this forum, I'd say the vast majority of work that's been being worked on for Dash Pay has been the bindings, which essentially allows us to access the features, that we need for the Dash Pay functionality. Over the course of most of January, that transitioned mostly to the actual implementation of the various features, document requests, identity syncs, usernames, things of that nature. That has had some progress. I mean, we still don't have I'll say a fully functional working app that we can really do full regression testing on. There's a separate, I'll call it a dev tool, but it's just a very simplified UI that allows kind of easy testing, dev testing of various features. Most of the features from my last update are working, with some crash issues that are being addressed now, particularly with usernames. And invitations is still something that will need to be worked on as well after everything's done. That's a lower priority, but not much work has been even started on invitations. So that'll be, I won't call it a fast follower, but it will be one of the next things that we focus on after getting all the other more critical kind of Dash Pay features working. So that's where we are with it right now. I don't know, Sam, if you've had, I know you're going to have another more technical kind of discussion with the developer. If you have anything to add on that front.
It's happening right after this call or this review.
Okay. So that's the last update I got. I mean, I know it's frustrating for everybody not having Dash Pay on iOS. So I mean, I'll apologize for that. I mean, it's frustrating in a few different ways, right? It's not just about having the functionality available to people, which is obviously important. It's also just kind of feature alignment with Android, right? It's hard to, we don't want Android to be too far ahead feature-wise of iOS. So there's been a lot of other improvements and things being done on Android. And that goes for redesign as well. We have a whole backlog of a redesigned UI for both Android and iOS. And even though we could have some capacity on Android, we have no capacity on iOS at all. So it's just trying to find that right balance between, getting features out as much aligned as we can between iOS and Android too. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't know if I think there was at least one or two questions on this front. I can't give you a specific, even estimated reliable estimate for timeline. I think that's something that maybe Sam might get some visibility to, when he talks on a more technical level with the developer, but we are making progress. I know it's not seen by everybody out there. But as soon as we're able to have anything on either testnet or or mainnet, certainly we'll make alpha and beta versions available to people once we've gone through, enough QA. So yeah, that's it on mobile.
Thank you very much. So yes, indeed, the first question was, when will Dash Pay be released for iOS? I guess we adequately discussed that topic. Maybe one part of the question was, that we haven't touched is, how can we fix it? I'm not sure what they mean.
How can we get it working faster in the future, basically, is from what I've understood from a lot of people asking this. Because it was not a good idea. Sorry, small cold. It was not good that, Android came out multiple months earlier than iOS.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that what we're going to have to do is, I mean, the only way we can fix it is hire an additional developer. I think that, well, I'm I don't know more than that, but I don't think that continuing down this path will lead us to faster results on iOS, right? Where I'll always be behind. So the only way to catch up is additional resources, I believe. But we'll see.
Brian,
Okay.
you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those comments. I mean, in a perfect world, you have a development team that is well-rounded in a sense that, has experience on UI and backend, related work. And we do have that on Android. We don't have that on iOS. And the only way to solve that is additional resources. I will say that we have members of the team that have either tried to contribute to iOS in one way or the other, and we have one member of the mobile team that does both development on Android and iOS, which has been fantastic. But there are still limitations to what they're able to do, particularly on the back end side, and to find a resource that is capable. Even a capable one, if you just putting cost aside, finding a capable resource, to get up to speed quickly, it's not easy to find, that person. And even if you, find someone that will work out in the long term, you're still looking at a decent ramp up period. So we're trying to focus on the resources that we do have. Obviously, we're looking at ways that we could potentially bring on other team members, but I mean, budget-wise, that just hasn't been something that we can focus on, unfortunately. We still have members of the team that are, taking reduced pay even. So that's the situation we're in. I mean, funding won't solve it completely, not in the short term, but certainly in the long term, more funding would help.
Thank you. Next question is, what's the plan moving forward to make third-party wallets compatible with DashPay? I read out the following questions as well.
No,
I
no,
understand.
I can answer that if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really depends on the technology stack that the third-party wallet is using. Some third-party wallets are basically just have a backend running the core C++ work, and core C++ wallet, and then they have some JavaScript that connects to that. That's some wallets. Like, there's probably 25 different systems out there, right? So without actually looking at the person and figuring out what they need, especially, we can only have like a guess that would cover maybe 80% of use cases. For 80% of use cases, having having the correct SDK in JavaScript for iOS ecosystem and for Java/Kotlin/Android ecosystem, that's probably and Rust, though probably very few mobile integrations are in Rust, though I bet there's at least one. Having those 4 SDKs will probably cover 80%. However, not everything, right? Like, some systems are very specialized and they would need some additional work. Hopefully those wallets can do the work themselves that's necessary. If not, we can go in and potentially help third-party devs to get what they need if there's if the wallet is big enough and if there's a good use case for integrating.
Yeah, and in the second part of the question, which I think you somewhat covered, is what do we need to make third-party wallets compatible? Specific SDK for JS, Kotlin, Swift, or something else?
Yeah, so until this actually happens the first time, we're not going to know the pain points that they're going to encounter, right? We can surmise that there's going to be this problem, that problem, that problem, but we won't know. And even if we assume even if we believe everything's going to go super well, it won't, right? There'll be things that we just didn't think of. So we really need to, start off with a, one maybe external wallet, and, from a business development point of view, just have them understand that this will be like a learning process for both our teams, and try to get them to integrate with our help. And then once we've covered 1, maybe 2, then we can more safely assume that other people can follow suit without help.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So then next question is for Core. Costa, what is the status of the confidential transactions DIP? The latest version appears to be waiting for further review. It would be good to update the non-Discord community.
Yeah, for sure. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is kind of a I guess I would say definitely a project primarily spearheaded by Joel. It's something he's really passionate about. And he's been working with someone to write a dip to outline and detail what adopting confidential transactions might look like in Dash. And so we've been helping to review that as they've been making changes. The document definitely still has a number of questions that need to be answered yet. Probably the biggest thing is just the unknown unknowns at this point. The topics that some of us just really need to sit with and spend time with confidential transactions to make sure that we are fully understanding all the nuances. So yesterday, I think Sam and I both left a good number of comments on that PR. So the author can take a look at those and try to answer those questions probably and see if those are valid concerns or things that need to be filled out in the dip. So there's definitely more work to be done on the specification and documentation side of things. With that being said, they probably could be at a point where they could start prototyping stuff and try to start figuring some stuff out. I think the best way to figure out exactly what the dip might end up needing to look like will probably be by prototyping stuff and realizing, oh, this isn't in the spec, but I had to do it to make it work. So it should be added to the spec, that kind of thing. So definitely there's still a lot of kind of concerns about it, or at least there's a lot of more time that will need to be spent thinking about it and reading other sources and just becoming even more familiar with the technical aspects of CT. But yeah, so that's the gist. There's plenty of review and plenty of work now on that dip that could be done more. They probably also could start doing some prototyping and see where that leads them. And yeah, I think that generally answered it, but feel free to throw some more thoughts on Discord or something if you have any follow-ups to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind adding. I actually reviewed it yesterday after the conversation on Discord. I feel like the writer goes extremely well in depth on some parts, and some other parts still need work. I mean, this is a normal review process, right? He probably knows some parts like the back of his hand, but for example, me and Pasta don't. So, you know, we need to have a dip generally should be pretty broad, so it can explain it to most people that are technical. So yeah, I think that there's from my side, I believe that there's you know, a few more passes at the review there. I mean, a few more back and forth that should happen, and more paragraphs to be written in the dip. But it is the person who wrote it, you can tell he's good. I'm very happy with what I see. Just that there, in my opinion, there are still some parts missing.
Thank you very much. Next question. Where are your tokens stored? In a document or like credits in identity?
So credits are actually not stored in identity. Just I mean, they look like they're stored in identity, but identity since identity v2, the identity is a collection of tons of small little storages, and one of those is the balances. So where are token balances stored? They're stored in a token tree. I mean, in the path, which is I think 16 120 120 or something like that. There's basically a path for the tree, and then all the token balances are stored per token and then per user.
Okay, next question. Can we change the word freeze to thaw?
No, unfreeze to thaw.
Oh, unfreeze, sorry, unfreeze to thaw.
We can make a poll about it. XK, make a poll. Whatever people prefer, I'll do. I thought freeze, unfreeze is more friendly to non-English speakers than thaw, even though thaw is correct.
Thaw is correct. I have no idea what that means. I guess
Yeah,
it's a synonym of unfreeze.
Exactly.
From the context. So next question, what will the token creation process look like? Will there be an interface in DET or on the web, or is it just like token contract and need to generate and broadcast?
So, earlier today we saw that we could paste in a contract in the Dash Evo tool. I think that we might actually make it so you can create the token with all the configuration parameters and you just, have a drop down for each one. We could maybe do that. Is Paul still here? I love volunteering him to do more work. Yeah, but we basically want to make it as easy as possible to create a token. We are debating currently what the price of a token to create a token should be, so people don't spam, a million different tokens, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's 1 penny to create a token on the system, we're gonna see like super amount of spam. Now, I don't think it should be $200, but it should be maybe 1 dash to create a token or something like that. So if anybody has any views on the matter, please let us know in the comments or on Discord.
Thank you. Where is or where will the documentation for all the tokens, features, and configs be?
So actually, the Fez is currently working on that, and he's making good progress.
Thank you.
And
Next
I
question.
believe that all the documentation will be done by the time tokens are released, and even actually probably before, probably in a week from now. We'll see the starts of the documentation. It will be on our docs.dash.org, I think. Or it's when you go to dash.org, the documentation, you can go to documentation and then platform documentation, and there'll be a section for tokens.
Okay, thank you. What is the purpose of bidirectional references? What problem are you going to solve by them?
Sure. So, one thing. So basically, in traditional databases, you have something called cascade deletes. Cascade deletes are basically when you remove this field, it will cascade and remove some other field or some other data, some other entry in a different table. Basically, a foreign key, if the foreign key has a cascade delete, it then removes the other thing. Right now, if you were to remove so if you had a reference from A to B and you removed B, the reference from A to B would still exist, and you would basically have an issue in the system. We deal with this inside of drive code by manually always making sure that anything that refers from A to B, the A is also removed. So since we know the structure of all of our data, we're able to do that with some extra work. Having bidirectional references allows, well, it allows people that use GroveDB to not have to do that additional work. For one, it allows for cascade removals of the previous references, and there are probably other things that it will probably do in the future. Now, will we change the current system to using Cascade? Sorry. Will we change the current system to using bidirectional references in documents? No, we won't, because it's actually more efficient to not use bidirectional references. But there are features in the future that will use them.
May I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not only about deletions, because also we have cryptographic proofs. We store hashes of data, so it's also about changes. So changes of the data also shall be propagated because references, they have hashes of what they are pointing to, and with regular references, it's not propagated at all. So inconsistency happens without directional references.
Exactly, yeah. The way that we deal with this in Drive right now is that every single time we make any change, we do a refresh operation of the of all things of all references. But while that's more efficient, it's extremely complicated. So new systems that we build, probably we would use bidirectional references instead.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can we move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does assume UTXO rapid semi-trusted sync affect SPV clients such as DashPay?
No, not inherently. Probably SPV clients could implement like kind of their own version of Assume UTXO potentially, but don't quote me on that. Probably someone with more SPV knowledge could speak to that, but Assume UTXO as implemented by Core will only improve the experience for people that use the Core wallet.
Can you, for somebody who's been following super deeply what Assume UTXO does, could you let me know?
Assume UTXO is just a it's like checkpoints, but for the UTXO set. Kind of. So you could you could
Oh,
start a node and just say in that starting of the node that like I am asserting that at block 2 million the UTXO set looks like this. And so then because of that you don't need any of the blocks before block 2 million. You only need what changes the UTXO set after that. So it's kind of similar to state sync from platform's perspective. It's basically the same thing, but for Core.
not the same thing, but yeah, I get it.
Similar.
So yeah, so it doesn't really make sense for an SPV client because an SPV client only has the UTXOs that it cares about locally, and it doesn't send out any UTXOs. So basically, like you couldn't preload the wallets with an identities UTXO set because everybody has a different one, basically.
Okay. So two more questions. When invites for DashPay wallet? I guess this is too dependent on the iOS release, but would appreciate some status update. Code ready to launch, affiliate features ready to go. It's essential for growth.
Yep, it's definitely something that definitely will hopefully help us grow the network. So on Android, I mentioned earlier, we've already started into that. We're getting close in our current sprint to, hopefully to wrap up the receiving end of the invitations. It's not technically dependent on iOS. There are some risks that if we release a version in Android of invitations, that it might not be fully compatible with iOS immediately, and we might have to do some additional rework, either on the Android side or the iOS side. But I feel the benefit and value outweighs the risk to waiting on iOS. So more likely than not, invitations will come out on Android as soon as they're ready. Obviously, it's not going to benefit iOS users. iOS users won't be able to accept an invite until DashPay is out, but it will work for all Android devices. So at least we'll be able to have invitations between Android devices. I don't have a specific date yet, but we are, like I said, pretty close to wrapping up the development for that. So I do foresee it in probably 11.2 or 11.3 in the next couple weeks.
Thank you. Another question for you, Brian. What kinds of work can Android devs work on if they get too far ahead so they don't ever sit idle waiting for iOS to catch up? UI, integration/features.
Well, I can rest assured no one is sitting idle, any of the teams. And we do still have a pretty decent sized backlog on Android for whether it's code refactoring, and I did mention, the UI redesign, which even if we don't decide to release the UI redesign on Android, we can at least get started working on it if we have any kind of gaps. But I mean, to my earlier points, Joel and I are still trying to work, through finding partners for a dash spend provider, that we can implement. So there will be work. There's always going to be feature related work. Part of the question is going to be, when we decide to release each feature or redesign.
Okay, I see a question here that I don't think we can solve here. I just read it out loud to acknowledge, okay? In DMT app Evo node, which has been running for 4 months, it displays owner dash address, and to withdraw credits, you need owner private key. What can be done? If you click use owner private key and generate a new one, can it be used to withdraw credits? Do I need to apply the changes after I generate the owner's private key?
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
So there are 2 keys. There's the owner private key and there's the withdrawal address that you use. You need one of those 2 to be able to withdraw your credits. Now, if you've lost both of those, there's really nothing that can be done because you've lost access to both of them. Now, if you're using Trezor, right, and let's imagine that you're sending, let's say you've lost your owner private key, so you no longer can change the payout address, let's imagine, and you have sent you basically are receiving it on a withdrawal address that's on your Trezor, but that you don't know the private key of. The only thing that you can do is you can try to find the private key of that public key based off of the derivation path of that key. So that's pretty advanced stuff. And I mean, I would not do it unless you have a significant amount of Dash that you need to withdraw. I mean, I would not do it if you don't know what you're doing, basically, because you could, if you take your seed phrase and you put it in some place that's not good, somebody could steal all of your Dash. If you know what you're doing, then yeah, you can, there are ways to derive and get the private key out of your seed phrase. And yeah, you can go to, I think, BIP39 mnemonic and download that code and then go offline and probably go like that. But again, I'm not saying that you should do that. Do at your own risk. Maybe there's, don't trust random people that say that they can help you because they'll probably just try to scam you. It's a complicated situation if you've lost your owner private key and the private key of your withdrawal. Not good.
Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for joining, for being here. And thank you for the questions and feedbacks. Hopefully we see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye-bye.